We are not the sum total of all of our problems. We all experience problems. Sometimes too many at one time can be really overwhelming. Were you put here to be a receptacle to problems? Sometimes I feel that way. I have that in my life, felt that way, and I'm sure many people do. Or were you put here to be a problem solver? And if you can solve your problems and move forward, um, that is the name of the game, because problems are inherent in our lives, and we're not going to get away from them. And they're, just lurking around the corner. We don't even know like what's ahead, and we're gonna dig deep into that. But that can be a mindset difference between how you manage and conduct your life, how you react to when all of a sudden you turn the corner and you're feeling so good, and bam, there it is, right in your face, smashola. You're just elected that day to have, just a crappy day, and maybe even longer than that. But let's dig deep into it. I'm Zev Halpern, and I'm
I,
here on the East Coast in the Washington, Baltimore area, which is a hot zone right now politically. And
I am Sarah Polyakov on the West Coast, and this is the Your Amazing Edge podcast, and we are coast to coast, nationwide, and worldwide. So please join us.
so, Sarah,
Yeah.
problem. Have you ever been smashed in the face with, problems that just you didn't expect?
That could be the story of my life. Yes. In fact, yesterday was a bad day concerning the dogs, but you know that story.
Yeah, you love your dogs. They're part of your family.
They are. Can you
And,
see them? Can everybody see the
oh,
dog?
yeah, there they are.
Yeah, there they
They
are. Reuben and
are resting comfortably on the Your Amazing Edge podcast.
they are. They are the
Very
biggest
dog.
fans of this podcast. They never miss an episode.
So a lot of people let their problems define them. It's almost as if they're wearing it on their forehead. And I can understand it because problems can be extremely overbearing and push down on us and push us to places that we really don't want to go. I mean, look at all the doors in America. Behind every door, people live with problems that you can't even imagine. Terrible problems, sickness, money, success, children, to name a few. There are many problems, and if we don't, if we're not resilient enough, they can take us down, and they can take a lot of time off our lives, days, weeks, months, till we sort them out. It's almost as if maybe in school they should have told us, now, boys and girls, I want you to have a little container. I'm handing out this little container.
Right?
And so whenever you have a problem,
Like a
just
yeah,
just just put your problem in the container
like a
and
here.
and seal it off and
Put it
turn
in the
it
table.
and seal it.
Good luck.
Because, says the teacher, but didn't say the teacher, those problems will get in your way. You can deal with them as they happen, or some of them you can deal with later, especially when three, four, five, six of them start mushrooming on you. But they don't teach us that. They don't tell us how to be resilient. I'd say that's an important part of schooling without having to get into anything. Just
Right.
a resilient child heading into adulthood with some heads up, with a heads up.
Right.
Please, teacher, why didn't you give me a heads up?
Wouldn't that be great? And I've noticed that somebody's left a comment. So hello to all of you who are viewing and welcome. And please drop more comments. We'd love to see you.
We do love to hear your comments, and some of you have written some really interesting ones, and we would really appreciate keep sending them, good and bad. We're pretty thick-skinned around here, so
We are.
by all means, you can send whatever you want. We're not gonna fizzle off. Say what's on your mind. If we could encourage you to do that in this life, then we've been successful, because hiding things and not saying what's on your mind and letting other people take advantage of you in any kind of way, or not speaking your mind, is a you're wasting so much time, and you need to be heard. And if people aren't listening to you, then I think you need to turn up the volume a little bit.
And we are here to hear you.
So your present circumstances, whatever they are, they just, where can you go with them? You can go splattered against the wall, or you can realize that a problem is really a message to you, telling you this is the place you got to start. It's a starting point. It's not an end point. It's not the end all be all. It's a starting point. And it's not your identity. What you're struggling with doesn't have to define you. It does many people, because again, it's pouring out of them. They're wearing it on their bodies. It's just a chapter in your life. Maybe even it's just a week in your life. It's not the whole story. You're writing your story. You're the author. You have authority. That's why it's called author.
Wording.
You have the authority to write your own story and write your own narrative, and you put the ending on it. Even if it's raining problems, it's still incumbent upon you to get your, quote unquote shit together in any way possible. Whether you ask for help, whether you do it yourself, whether you find some self-help reality that gets you going, it's a responsibility. You can't just, chuck them, because they're not, chuckable. You have to deal with them.
Yeah, the problems find a voice. I've talked about this before. If we try to suppress our problems, they have a really funny way of finding their own voice, whether it be through alcohol abuse or depression or panic attacks, anxiety disorders, you name it. They will find a way out. Maybe they even come out in illness on the body. They'll find a way out.
I mean, they can be a problem, or they can be a disease. You can spread the disease, or you can put a stop to it and put it in hold. And yes, they didn't teach us about containers, so let's grow one. Put some in a container till you have the wits to deal with the particular problem that's happening. And I know it's not that easy. But trust me, in my life, it hasn't been that easy, because I was just going my merry little way in my life, doing things. And then, one day my daughter overdosed, like too many other children are overdosing on fentanyl, and died in my hands. Now that's a problem that seems insurmountable. But I know other ones. I know, this isn't a pity puddle, and we have to. Life is for living. I saw another woman in my life who lost 4 children in one day.
How did that happen?
They were murdered in their house.
How?
By a worker that they hired. Turned out to be, somewhat psychotic. And as people came home, the girls were raped, and he murdered each one of them while the mother and the son were away at the beach. Imagine.
It's unimaginable.
Driving you home to that reality. I mean, is that a problem? That's more than a problem. That's something.
That's something that would break most people.
Some people don't get over it. I went to that funeral, not to be too too difficult here or too. I'm looking for the word, but I went to that funeral, and the truth is that at that funeral, the graves, it looked like they were building a house.
Oh, goodness.
There were 4 graves, and it
Oh,
looked like they were constructing a house. They weren't having a funeral. It was a special day, a very difficult day, and I was able to be around this person for a while who looked to me for support, and those are
thank
the times we have to give support. Listen, Sarah and I met a lot of ways because of my losing my daughter. She was an empathetic person on LinkedIn, and we happened to be on LinkedIn, and reached out to me
Yeah.
and was extremely empathic. And those are the times where you really need somebody to listen. That's how you get over it. You move past it. People don't want to hear about it. Most people do not want to hear about death, problems, or any of your crap. They only want to hear good things. That's just the way humans are constructed. There are those of us that are empaths, and
Right.
we're interested in hearing, and we're interested in being supportive. But not everybody is wired to do that, and it's important, incumbent, to find someone in your life, whether it's a coach, a therapist, a friend, who can be there for you. Because when
Exactly.
somebody's there for you, then problems take on a much less obstacle that you have to
Right.
push yourself through. And there's another thing that comes into play that nobody else really can help you with, and that's your own determination. Your determination comes into play. We have to intervene in our own lives. Life sometimes deals us a deck where we have to intervene. If we don't, then life has intervened in us.
Right.
Life acts on us or we act on life. It's a choice we have to make. And you could throw your hands up and say, well, Zeb, that's impossible. And, we have to deal with grief. And sure, we do. We have to deal with all those things. But in the end, it's about determination. It's about what you do with the problem. And that really will be the end of the story. The final chapter, when people read about you, they will see that you were somebody who overcame, and that we didn't lose you in that problem. That some of us can't even, can losing a child is a very, very difficult ordeal. And
It's unfathomable to me. And during that time, I couldn't look away. I mean, Zev brought it up. I was not, when he lost his daughter, I was not his life coach or his therapist or anything. I was just, I couldn't look away from what Zev was going through. And so I just kept reaching out.
the strength, the strength that you need to do this is inside of you. It was inside of me, and I was able to eventually get through it and move past the grief. And but it's about attitude. It really is. You could get that. Oh, it always happens to me. Everything is terrible, and my world sucks, and people are crappy, and I never get a break, and I never. And there's a lot of that, and I don't blame you. It's a relief to say those kind of things. We say those things to relieve ourselves because we're
Right.
we're so burdened and
Sometimes it's true. Sometimes it feels like you don't have a break because one thing happens after another, happens after another, happens after another. And so when that happens, you can sit with those feelings, but you're also the master of those feelings and you're the master of your life.
it's really about how we approach this and what we do with it. And what we do with it tells the story. And what's a story? What's something, Sarah, that that happened to you that you gathered yourself, or you didn't gather yourself, or you weren't able to just move past it?
I think a lot of college graduates might relate to the first thing that comes to mind is when I was 24, I was making a career transition. I had decided to be a teacher at a university, but it was just an adjunct role, and they don't pay them very well. And I had all these student loans coming due from graduate school, and I decided that I wanted to make a career pivot into corporate. And so I didn't have anywhere to live except for my aunt's house. She lived in the area where all the corporations were. So I lived in my aunt's basement. And I went on interview after interview for about 10 months and worked as a waitress during the day. And I tell you, every day I thought, there's no way this is going to happen. I really wanted that corporate job because I liked it. I liked that structure, but I also needed some financial security. That's the bottom line. And I was one of those fresh graduates that nobody really wanted to hire. And it took 10 months for somebody to give me a chance. And so every day I would go to work as a waitress every day. And then I had to talk myself up every night because I was getting so down. I felt like a sinking lead balloon. I felt like it would never end. And I felt horrible. I felt like, what am I doing? Living in my aunt's basement, driving a truck that works only half of the time, and walking to work most days. I felt really low, but I just kept going. I told myself there is no other option for me. I can't go back because that's not an option. So I had to keep going forward until somebody gave me that break. And they did.
You're talking about self-belief. You're talking about believing in yourself enough to weather those storms. You could have easily given up. Many people do. I've heard them tell me how I just can't do it anymore. I can't. I can't is not going to get you past your problems. It will, put things on hold for a little bit. You'll lose time. That's not so terrible. But at some point, we have to pick ourselves up and recognize that all the sum of these, we're not the sum of these problems. We are something else. We're put here to be something else. And when we know that, when we know we're headed in a different direction, then we have to live it, and we got to push past these obstacles. Sometimes it even takes acting as if something, act as if you are on your way to a different part of your life, and then push past these problems. Easy to say, not so easy to do, because these are hardships. And we endure hardships, and there are people who have endured hardships. I told you about myself, about other people. There's stories after stories. We don't hear them. A lot of times we don't hear them because we don't want to hear them, because they're, who wants to hear? It's all down. It's all, ugh. But the truth is that this is the difference between making it, breaking it, making it. It just is. If you don't embrace your challenges and find a way to confront them and to find solutions for them and scratch and claw if you have to. Sarah and I, and that's really one of the biggest themes for Sarah and I, why we do these podcasts twice a week, is because we understand that deep inside of us, there's a certain power, and that power grows stronger as our problems and adversity grow stronger. We just are not in touch with it. It's there, it's growing, it's not dying, it's there for the taking, but you have to have access to it. You have to be able to reach in there and find it. And, if you read this book that Sarah and I put together, Discover Your Amazing Edge, that's really what the book is about. It's about embracing your challenges and finding strength from your adversity. Because in your adversity, imagine, you know how it is. It's terrible. The power, it's huge. It's like a force field that's so strong. So where does it go? I mean, it's sitting here, and if you don't do something in your life to try to find it or access it, you're missing something that could really be the difference between how your life goes from there. I mean,
Exactly.
we're way more than the battles that we fight.
And that's the thing, is it's this whole thing about we are way more than the battles than we fight. This is important to remember, because sometimes those battles can really drag down your self-esteem. You can internalize them. That's why we wrote this chapter. It's actually a chapter from our book, You Are Not the Sum Total of Your Problems. Because for me, when I let the problems pile up, they can be this incredible self-esteem downer that just pulls me to the dark, deep depths if I let it. Right?
How do you reach in there, Sarah? How do you reach in? How do you grab hold of some power?
Well, so it's a very powerful feeling when when you feel as if you're helpless and you're being dragged to these deep, dark depths. I say no, and I come back to the idea that instead of impossible, it's I am possible. You've probably heard that a million times, but it can't be said enough. There's no impossible. There's only I am possible. But if it's something too big for me to handle, I reach out and get help. I do.
So the good news is there's ways to deal with this.
Always. If it's too big for me, I can reach out and get help.
So I have a transformational mindset here that, like a mantra, I turn my problems and challenges and adversity into my personal power source, which fuels my success. Again, it's easy to say, it's easy to put across, not so easy to do, but it's possible.
But it's possible. And that is the transformational mindset. And did you want to read that again?
I turn my problems, challenges, and adversity into my personal power source, which fuels my success. I mean, imagine, think about it. You have this personal power source. It doesn't come from anywhere else. It doesn't come from anything else that you're doing. It just comes completely from the depths of you. And how do you find it? You scratch and claw and talk and do everything you possibly can and recognize, like if you were traumatized by some perpetrator or whatever, and you're angry and you seek revenge and you just, that's just the problem of your life. Your life got ruined that night that this thing happened, but your life didn't get ruined that night. That person did what they did. It happened. It's awful and it's horrible. And there's nothing good we can say about it. The only good that can come out of it is when you realize that your anger and your retribution comes from living a much better life. And that's how you basically get back the power from these horrible perpetrators that are out there. And these are perps. These are sick people. And on an innocent night, what I've heard, what happens to some people that they never talk about. And it affects, these problems affect them. Every single thing that they do, they see it through the lens of that problem until they finally decide to trust somebody, to find somebody to trust. I mean, there are husbands and wives who literally go through the routines that they go through, and they don't realize that one of them had been traumatized in their life because that person was taught to not talk about their problems. Don't tell other people your problems. Don't
Right.
keep them inside. Keep them to yourself. Don't talk about them. Don't do this. This is a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for depression, unhappiness, drug abuse, you name it.
Yeah.
That thing inside of you will be sitting in there like, you couldn't take the best antacid in the world. You would have to, throw down gallons of it to try to get rid of the horrible feelings that you have. But you can free yourself of it by doing different kinds of things. I would say by doing something, because if you're not doing something, then you're just going to be rotten in that puddle and drowning in that puddle.
And just keep going.
I mean, it's a tough, in dealing with this particular show today. This is a very tough, um, um, a tough subject because a lot of people have gained really bad attitudes from having so many problems or having so much shit in their lives, so many things go wrong, that they're just a pile of unhappiness. And to talk to them, even to appeal to them, not so easy. I mean, there are people who could be listening to what Sarah and I are talking about and going, oh, great, that worked for you. Well, it ain't going to work for me because I'm a messed up person and I'm screwed up and I'm this and I'm that. And again, when we say those things, there is relief in saying that because it excuses us
Right.
from
There
having
is.
from having to embrace the fact that these things happened and that we have to find some kind of ladder. We got to
Right.
find where's the ladder? Get a ladder.
Right.
Hello, can you someone please bring me a ladder because I'm deep in this well and I'm just going to sit here in this well. I'm not going to tell anybody, and I'm going to take my anxiety pills and I'm going to do whatever it is. When somebody could bring you a ladder and you could grab one rung at a time out of this problem rabbit hole that you fell into. You're at the bottom of the well, nobody's hearing, nobody's because you're not saying it.
Right.
They don't hear it because you're not saying it.
And also, even if it feels good, even if it feels good momentarily to think that you're beyond help, there's going to be a much bigger problem. If you keep telling yourself that you're beyond help and that your problems are the sum total of who you are, you really start to believe it. You start to,
The person who comes into the office here in the past, and the first thing out of their mouth is, uh, I'm all I have is problems. I can't, I'm a problem child. Well, I look at them and I say, well, you probably are. You've defined yourself. You've basically put a thing on your forehead that says, I'm a problem child.
and you can
And
remove that thing on your forehead saying you're a problem child by rewiring how you think about yourself. And maybe others told you you're the problem child. But these are things that we need to rewire because they become habits. They affect how we see the world, they affect how we interact with the world, and they don't do us any good in the end.
the sad part is that they become beliefs. And
They do.
then the beliefs spawn the inner critic. And the inner critic is relentless. The inner critic is of no help in these kinds of things because the inner critic has won all this great material they have to oppress you with. And a lot of you out there know exactly what I'm talking about. You know that there's this inner critic that acts on you, and it keeps coming up, and it will keep coming up. It comes up throughout our book because it's such an important part. It's almost like you're a person, and you got this whole, you got this horrible, the little guy on your shoulder telling you to jump, and the other one telling you, to survive and to do. I think you got to believe in that other person. A lot. I mean, it's kind of a sick part of human condition that we want people to jump. Maybe that makes us feel better. I don't know. I think it does. I think that some people feel that when somebody's in worse shape than they are, that makes them feel good. Um, they're not the kind who are going to reach out and try to help you, but there are those kind available out here, and only a fool would not ask for help in some way from somebody. And if it's that help doesn't come from that person that you're targeting, then go elsewhere, because you got to work through this. It has to happen, or you're doomed to feeling this belief in yourself that I'm a problem child. I have no chance. I have no this. You need somebody on the other side that says, no, you do have a chance.
Right.
You can put some of that crap away and start recognizing that you weren't put here, to be the world's problem container.
And Zev, have you ever noticed that there are some people out there who don't want to ask for help? Now, this is a real thing that people have told me. They don't want to ask for help because that makes them crazy. That somehow makes them weak. These are words I've heard from people. What do you think of that?
I think that we're taught that, that there's a weakness, in asking for help. And that's just one of the stigmas, why a lot of people don't get help, is because we receive messages, that only the strong survive. And if you show weakness in one way, shape, or form, that already turns you into something, a non-desirable, and someone who's not going to make it. And maybe your father said it, maybe some role model said it. Who knows who said it? But it's not true.
It's not true. And there's nothing like a role model to drag you down. So if somebody that you really look up to has given you a criticism, that can really be a barb to the heart.
Even in 1 minute,
Yes.
I've talked to people where a teacher has said something to them in their life in 1 minute. 1 minute of their life, they were judged. You need to rate yourself. You need to rate yourself in this life. When people say, Anna, how do you rate on a step? I was today. I was at softball practice, indoor softball practice, because it's still a little cold. Zev over here is going to play softball again, and I have to tell you, I'm super excited about it. I ordered a bat. I got the bat, and I was smash over the ball today. But I come to find out that in this particular league, they draft you. So they've been watching me. They've been watching me pitching. They've been watching me hitting. And a guy came right up to me today and said, are you a good hitter? Can you run? Can you hit it to the outfield? And basically, he's, this coming week, they're going to be drafting people, onto these teams. That's how it works. And it's kind of an interesting thing. I'm just having fun. So, however it lands, I told the truth. I rated myself. And, that's the point I'm trying to make. I was asked at this moment when I wasn't expecting it to rate myself. And I decided, I'm going to rate myself high because I'm determined to, I stopped 5 years ago. And pretty soon I'm going to show you pictures of me out there on the field, pitching, hitting, and the whole bit. That's a happy zone for me. I spent many, many years in that happy zone. And actually, it was one of those feel-good things that was a springboard for all kinds of things in my life. Because when you feel good about one thing, if you can hold on, if you can grab on to one thing that you're good at, it doesn't matter what it is. Pick up sticks. Sewing, knitting.
Just one thing.
The feeling that you have when you do that thing is the thing that you need, that will propel you forward into a life that you're looking for. So don't look at it as a little thing. If you're good at something, get into that I'm a good at something mode, because that spreads like a good disease. like the good witch of the East. It's
Right.
not like the evil witch of the West. That thing spreads positive stuff.
Right.
Positivity comes flying out of there, and all of a sudden you find strength that you really didn't think you have. Look, we could talk about this particular subject for a long time. It can be depressing. It can also be uplifting. I hope that by bringing it to the fold today, because truthfully, it hasn't been an easy. This isn't one of the easiest shows.
No.
This is a hard show because I had to really take a look at some things about myself that I've been through that I had to push past and I had to work through, and how that happened. Um, I hope that you found some inspiration and recognition that there is power in adversity. And I encourage you to check out our book. It's available on Amazon. Every chapter will make you think about something that will improve you. And it really, in the end, it's a choice. Every chapter is a choice. You can read it or you can choose to do it. And we've tried to make things easier. We've tried to take a stepping stone approach towards the hard things. Some people want you, hey, man up, woman up, do what
No.
you gotta do. You don't have to do it that way. It doesn't have to be that way. You can take one small step and celebrate.
It's one of the toxic things in our culture when people say, hey, man up. That's something I never told my sons. I have 2 sons and I have never told them, hey, you need to man up, because I think that is one of the most toxic messages that we have in our society. What do you think?
I think that it's just, it's the thing that stops people from reaching the places that they want to get to, because they don't reach out for help and they don't
Yeah.
recognize that sometimes we're not all bastions of strength, and life has ebbs and tides, and
Right.
sometimes we're weak. Sometimes we're thrown into weakness. Hey, I'm weak. I can't do this. I just can't. I'm going to go to sleep. Tomorrow I'm going to try again. But today sucks. And I'm not dealing with it today. But that's a choice you're making, an active choice. But the next day, what's your choice going to be?
You're going to get right
up to you. That's really up to you. And it's all up to you. That's the whole point of this. Everything is up to you. It's other people cannot ruin your life. You can only let them ruin your life. And don't.
And
Don't
that's a hard pill. That's a hard pill to swallow, because sometimes it very much feels like other people have the power to ruin our lives. Other people can loom large, especially if they're important to us.
Yeah, and sometimes some of these people are just plain old shitty.
And
They're
that's
nasty. They feel bad about themselves. They don't, already. And so they, basically prey on other people so that they'll feel better about themselves. Everybody needs someone to step on. No, but some people do. Recognize who those people are. Take a look, be a good, put your binoculars on, put your telescope on, and sort out who is and who isn't, who might be, a circle of people that you might want to get into or talk to, or a person, and follow through. It could be the thing that literally moves you past this impasse that you found. But anyway, look, join us Tuesdays and Fridays. On Tuesdays, we talk about personal development issues. On Fridays are Spicy Fridays, and we get down into the spicy, intimate part of people trying to work those things out. As we know, they don't always go according to plan, and a lot of relationships nosedive, and that we all of a sudden we figure out I didn't sign on for this, and we try to cover those topics on Friday. So it's really and we're enjoying it. We're having a good time doing it, and we look forward to your comments. Please comment whenever you want to. Again, we're thick-skinned. Soon we're going to have a live webinar called Leap Forward. And basically, it's about you getting unstuck and taking your feet out of the quicksand and jumping and moving and clawing and making the choice to grab the rung and pull yourself up, even though it doesn't feel like you can. You know, the way you try to do a pull up and you can't do it. Well, at least you've grabbed the rung. And we want you to grab the rung.
Grab the rung.
So, see anything else, Sarah, you have today?
I just wanted to thank everybody for tuning in again. And please also contact us in the DMs. We love to talk to you. We love to hear your ideas, and we are here to help you.
So we'll see you Friday for Spicy Fridays.
Yay.
And we'll be here each week 2 times. So have a good week until then, Sarah. It's been fun as usual. Challenging today because of a tough subject that we talked about a lot, but I'm glad we saw that through. So anyway, we'll see you soon, and check you later.
Check you later. Thumbs up.